unification was not even on the table. You know what? The mindset was overwhelming, and it didn't matter what he wanted. Those are kind of mundane examples in a way, but
sure, but
this applies everywhere. So as long as we are playing the game, let's you and he fight, we will still be mired in the muck. But as individuals, if we can individually gain our clarity, look and see what's really going on, look for the faces between the words.
And
that's our contribution. It's like some of these people who say, well, in a given country, all these people are victims. No, they were willing participants. They allowed this to happen.
Yep, that's an interesting point there. That's right. And what you described there, I guess, would be a lot of people would say, well, that's actually because for a while it worked to have these big, countries or nations or ideologies fighting against each other, i.e., U.S. and capitalism and Soviet Russia and communism, of course, and now it was a time for this to go away, and it's time for a new world order, a one world order, basically. And no matter how or if this is a conscious conspiracy behind this, I still find it interesting because actually it is happening. And actually in your document you have one paragraph that kind of talks a little bit about this a little bit. And let me read this here. This is from the Piscean here first. And home-centered. The home has been the cornerstone of social structure. Even in law, the home has been special. Examples: home ownership is a major driving force in social and economic dimensions of society. Home appearance is more important than structure and longevity. Education has been home-based and supported as partnership with parents. Home is identified with love, safety, and security. Then under Aquarian, we have world-centered. With the world as focus, the individual home is virtually the individual home virtually disappears. Examples: communal living will increase dramatically. Apartments, townhouses, and condominiums are a limited form of communal living. Professional parents will raise their children. Daycare centers are the beginning of this trend. Safety and security considered to be individual traits, and a lot of people would find that very scary, right?
Well, I think it can be very scary depending on how it's implemented. You see, if it's implemented without the recognition and integration of the creative feminine within, with an understanding of the why and the dynamics and the benefits and the injection of love, it would be essentially reform school. So here we can have a similar arrangement, but totally different in its overall impact.
And that would also imply that when a idea like this would go into effect, if it ever were, then we can't have people with a kind of mindset that is ruling society today, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
See, it all gets down to this mindset. We have these conditions in each one of our countries because we have allowed it as citizens.
Yeah, I would agree.
Whatever reasons. Now, you mentioned the home, which I find is interesting. One of these little mini micro trends in this thing that has been happening in this country. I know from what I've perceived, the European culture is that a home has been traditionally owned by a family, and it's passed down within the family for generations, and they're built to last, and a lot of things like that. Whereas over here in the United States, we build these little boxes of ticky-tacky that have a design life of 15 years or design life expectancy, even though they may actually be used for 40 or 50 years. But I find it very interesting that people talk about home ownership. Now, if you lose possession of something because you didn't pay somebody money for it, is that yours? Theirs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't pay your taxes, you lose your house. If you don't pay the mortgage company, you lose your house. Nobody owns a house over here.
Is that
all
so?
owned by the government and the finance people.
Yeah, I mean, again, we
illusion.
we used to have that thing. I mean, Europe again is very broad. It's a lot of countries here we're talking about, of course, but it used to be more what you describe like that before. But now things are moving away from that, and people are, borrowing again money to buy their house, whatever. And what you're saying there again is applies over here too, in that sense. In many cases, not in all, of course, but yeah, right.
All right, and we're borrowing money for what? For goodies and gadgets and spangles and banners and things that within 2 years are gone.
Yeah, of course.
So we've been led down the path of giving up things of value.
Yeah.
And there's no going back.
Is that a
major drastic changes?
Could that also be a little bit a reflection of the time we are in, considering that?
Oh, absolutely.
These.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, you start putting all these layers together, and one of the interesting ways of looking at this is trying to say, okay, we look at one of these characteristics. What are some examples that we see going around us? And that's why I've tried to provide some of those examples to help people actually do that, because it's almost, remember the old kid games, you look at the drawing and see if you can find the hidden faces?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar kind of thing, but it's a lot more serious.
Exactly. It's about the world and about the future, because you also discuss in your document a little bit about what actually would happen if we fail to, I guess, embrace the new things that are coming in. And as you said, we could end up here in a nightmare scenario, basically, and I guess also rising control grid. The police state is rampant, and fear and control would rule us, right?
Absolutely. And you can't fight. It's not a matter of arming and fighting it. It's a matter of getting to cause and fixing the cause.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat the bully in his own ground, in his own terrain, with his own weapons and his own rules and his own thugs standing by.
That's right. And seeing this cause or recognizing it, do you think that this also is related to that we have to not only internally change, of course, but also begin to lifting our heads a little bit and look up a little bit and begin to realize what life is? We need to, I guess, recognize that there is a creative force in the universe, that there's a spiritual component to everything and everyone. Do you think that these are important aspects in this?
Well, certainly recognizing the spiritual aspect of life and things is absolutely critical. One of the simple little exercises that I do in any classes that I teach is I'll go around the room and hold my hand about 6 inches from people's heads and ask them if they feel the presence of my hand. And about 98% of them will. And those that don't, you can ramp up the energies to such a point that they will too. But it's a real simple exercise, and it illustrates that we each have lots of energy that extends beyond our bodies,
yeah, of
which
course.
is as close to physical proof as you can get of the spiritual reality of things.
That's right.
And that's an aura interacting. You ever stood in an elevator packed with a bunch of people?
I hate it in most cases.
Yeah, well, why is that? Because your energies were impinging on theirs.
Yeah. That's right.
So there's a simple example of the spiritual aspect.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there's so many people out there now that are looking at this and researching it, and a little bit. This is also I don't know exactly how things are over in the U.S. And again, it's difficult to generalize things like this, but I feel that there is a kind of a spiritual awareness or component, coming in even on the mainstream. Those few occasions where I actually watch some TV and stuff like that, I can see it. But I also can see a kind of a trap in what is being presented there. Is still a kind of a mystical aspect than actually a knowledgeable aspect.
Absolutely. We're being driven from within to break out of this, and the pressure just grows every day. And the problem is that we don't have any surrounding network of knowledgeable people and information to explain to people what's going on. Why all we have is a bunch of ancient religious myth codified into concrete, which ignores the living, growing spirit within each of us.
Exactly. And let me read here, by the way, because you had this paragraph here that very nicely connects with this.
Another one, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Under Piscean here, we have magic. There is a great appreciation for sleight of hand and illusion. Achievement without understanding is highly thought of. Pooling of ignorance is common. Something for nothing is the ultimate high. Examples: popular stories of magic solutions to various problems abound. The ultimate magic is someone coming along and bailing us out of our problems, relieving us of personal responsibility for our choices. This ranges from the genie in the bottle to Prince Charming. And under Aquarian we have knowledge. The focus is on knowing. The result is not so much a given structure as the knowledge that makes it possible. Examples: magic disappears in the light of understanding. Illusion is only a challenge to learn how things work. There will be no room for free rides. Ignorance is not considered a virtue. Very important, I think.
Yes. Which again, we see how the very essence of all our structures have been built on deception in one way or another, often subtle ways. As we hear that on the media all the time, the banks are all stable, the economy is doing fine. Well, those in the middle of it do a little looking around. It's not quite as advertised.
That's right, exactly. Sheesh, yeah, things are kind of, it's illusion, I guess, also that is holding up this structure now, and it only needs some knowledge and some light. Just take the idea of since you mentioned economy, the idea of how the Federal Reserve, for instance, is constructed. If people were to find that out, the risks are that the whole structure would collapse.
Well, most of the people deny that. It's fascinating to watch all these denials. Oh, well, that couldn't be. They don't look into it. They don't find the truth. They just are busy floating on their seas of denial because it's more comfortable.
Sure.
Because this would tweak some of those low self-esteem feelings deep within, which it still always revolves around that. Now, Pisces has been built on low self-esteem, which is the next pair.
Exactly.
Whereas the Aquarian energy says inner knowledge is where it is. So that's one of the reasons we're being driven from within. We see less and less adoration of the victim. The people that have been using the victim card for years for a form of living are still trying to magically play that, and it's finding less and less acceptance because this energy behind it is gone.
Very interesting.
Now, this also brings another very interesting aspect to the self-esteem things. I've looked into that in a fair amount of detail, and one of the more interesting manifestations of low self-esteem is the perfectionist. Every aspect of their persona is perfect, and of course they cannot accept anything that is negative.
Yeah. It's
and
like
they are the ones with the lowest self-esteem. And they're sitting right on the same bench as those wallowing in the gutter, feeling sorry for themselves. But they have chosen a different way to manifest it, with a pseudo self-esteem. And we see that in the literalists who interpret some of the religious things in literal ways, be they Muslim, Christian, just whatever. The slightest little chink or error in the whole thing falls. So they can't possibly allow that in any aspect of their awareness. Hence the denial of anything. Well, let's see now. It says over here one thing and it says the opposite over here. Well,